Hi guys. I know, kind of a last minute thing. Um, I just wanted to come on here. Uh, I have some things to talk about. First, we need to do Today in History, since you guys love it so much. At least some of you do. I've heard some of you do, so, you know, I don't know if all of you do, but some of you do, so I'm gonna keep doing it. Alrighty, we've got a fun one today. Uh, this is December 14th, 2020. Roald Amundsen becomes first explorer to reach the South Pole. Norwegian Roald Amundsen, don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, forgive me if I'm not, becomes the first explorer to reach the South Pole, beating his British rival, Robert Falcon Scott. Amundsen, born in Bourges, near Oslo, in 1872, was one of the great figures in polar exploration. In 1897, he was first mate on a Belgian expedition that was the first ever to winter in the Antarctic. In 1903, he guided the 47-ton sloop, spelling is GJO with two dots over it, A. Not even going to try to pronounce that. Through the Northwest Passage and around the Canadian coast, the first navigator to accomplish the treacherous journey. Amundsen planned to be the first man to the North Pole, and he was about to embark in 1909 when he learned that the American Robert Peary had achieved the feat. Amundsen completed his preparations and in June 1910 sailed instead for Antarctica, where the English explorer Robert F. Scott was also headed with the aim of reaching the South Pole. In early 1911, Amundsen sailed his ship into Antarctica's Bay of Whales and set up base camp 60 miles closer to the pole than Scott. In October, both explorers set off, Amundsen using sleigh dogs and Scott employing Siberian motor sledges, Siberian ponies, and dogs. On December 14th, 1911, Amundsen's expedition won the race to the pole and returned safely to base camp in late January. Scott's expedition was less fortunate. The motor sleds broke down, the ponies had to be shot, and the dog teams were sent back as Scott and 4 companions continued on foot. Oh man, and I thought this was going to be a wholly uplifting one. Oh well. On January 18th, 1912, they reached the pole only to find that Amundsen had preceded them by over a month. Weather on the return journey was exceptionally bad. 2 members perished, another all-man, and a storm later trapped Scott and the other 2 survivors in their tent only 11 miles from their base camp. Scott's frozen body was found later that year. So, uh, I guess moral of the story is, if you're racing to get to the South Pole, uh, camp north of your rival or sail in north of your rival. I don't know. Hey, Marianne. Alrighty. So, uh, that over with. And I thought that was going to be a fun one. And it was, kind of, if you forget all the death. But anyway, getting on with the topic of the day, introduction to Star of the Magi. And I decided to do this because the edited video of Star of the Magi is going to be a bit long to begin with. And since I can do this off the cuff, I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. And you'll see what I mean later by the edited video is going to be a bit long. So at any rate, since I can do this off the cuff, that's what I'm gonna do. And so little bit of history, of course. Okay, so if you remember, going back in history, when Cyrus the Great let the Jews repatriate their land, not all of the Jews went. Some of them were like, you know what? I've never been to Israel. My parents have never been to Israel. You know, I've always been here in Persia, and I like it here in Persia, and I really don't want to go start over in some godforsaken place. So a lot of them stayed in Persia instead of going back to Israel. Now, you've seen on my Daniel series, you know, Daniel did not exist. But there were people, especially in the later years, after the Jews returned to Israel, that were Magi in Persia that had Jewish ancestry. And basically, the Magi were just astronomers and astrologers. You know, for brevity's sake, I'm going to call them astrologers because in that time, astrology and astronomy fell under the same umbrella. I know it doesn't anymore, but back then it did. In fact, it didn't even become two separate disciplines until the Middle Ages, or maybe even after the Middle Ages. So, brief history lesson on that. So a lot of Jews decided to stay in Persia because they didn't want to start over in Israel. They liked it in Persia. They didn't have any problems whatsoever, and so they decided to stay there. So then their descendants come along, and they're Jewish, or at least have some Jewish ancestry, and so they've heard the stories of, you know, Messiah's going to be born, blah, 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 blah. Now, I don't believe that this happened, okay? I just don't. But, let's say that Jesus was born. Hey, Randolph. And I'm not saying he was, but let's just, for argument's sake, let's say he was born. Um, Now, the article I found has said that historians place no veracity on the Star of the Magi, or as some people call it, the Star of Bethlehem. Um, Astronomers, on the other hand, have tried to find out what this quote unquote star is, and they cannot seem to agree on the subject. I will go ahead and tell you that. Now, the Chinese have no record of a star, a new star at that time, which means it's probably not a star in way of the proper star, but it is more likely, if it ever happened, it is more likely than not a celestial event. Back then, there were a lot of omens that astrologers were brought to court to read. When Jupiter's aligned with Mars, or and I'm making that up, but there are times when a certain planet is aligned with another certain planet, and then that's supposed to be a portend of good news or whatever. And so that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about an actual star. But it's interesting that when the astronomers go to find this out, that they can't agree on what the quote unquote star was. So, at any rate, getting back to the story, um, well, astronomers have been looking at the quote unquote traditional dates that historians put for Jesus' birth. If he existed, and like I said, I'm not getting into that here, not what this is about. The traditional dates for Jesus' birth is anywhere from 7 BCE to 4 BCE. Those are the traditional dates. Now, there's a new paper that has come out. Not exactly how new, but it puts forth a novel theory. This isn't a scientific theory. It's more like a hypothesis. Because we're dealing with history, I guess we can call it a theory. Sure, Marianne. And I'll even read it aloud. But you can leave it down in the comments. That's no big deal. Oh, by the way, I have a store on Teespring, Marianne. It's got a bunch of clothes on it. You might like that. Um, It'll be down in the description as soon as this posts. Um, I don't know when it's going to post. There's usually there's usually a lag time between when I go live and when it posts. And I'm in OBS right now, but I've have done some streams in StreamYards, so it doesn't matter whether I'm in OBS or whether I'm in StreamYards. It seems like there's always a lag, and it just depends on when YouTube wants to put my live stream up as to how long the lag is. So, at any rate, but yeah, go ahead and put it in the comments. Um, so, um, so we've got the Magi, and the Magi are from Persia. So when you read in the New Testament, wise men from the East, just substitute Magi from Persia. It means the same thing. Okay? So, and like I said, they were astrologers. And back in this time, astrology and astronomy were the same thing. There's no separating the two. So, allegedly, they heard, because they're of Jewish background, hey, Sadamame or Sadin, hey, Afrensis. I'll just call you Afrensis from now on. How about that? Um, so, so they supposedly find this sign that's supposed to be in the sky. And like I said, this was not unusual in this day. Um, there were a lot of signs in the sky, portents of good or evil, that astrologers were called to court to say, hey, this is good, you're going to have a son, he's going to live long, he's going to conquer all these lands, or, hey, this is really, really, really bad. You know, we got to do something about this. Sad anime. I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. So, so they go to, I would assume it would have been the um, Septuagint. I'm assuming. I don't know whether Persia had a Septuagint at the time, because remember, Persia was before Greece. But they had something akin to that. They had the Old Testament in some language. So, anyway, so they looked in the Old Testament and they're like, okay, so we need to look at around this time so we can see the portents of this great and mighty person that's supposed to be born. And like I said, it probably was not a proper star, because the Chinese records give no indication that there was a new star at this time. So, getting back to modern times, um, oh, I've got to say this before I get back to modern times. Marianne Lockwood, she used to be a JW, a Jehovah's Witness. She says, so they taught that the devil put it there so they would find Jesus, and then Herod could have Jesus killed, since he didn't want anyone else to be king of the Jews. And then she writes, I'll check out your Teespring. Thank you, Marianne. I've actually got 2 designs up. Uh, so anyway, that's interesting. That's an interesting take on it. So anyway, getting back to modern times, there is a pair of, I don't know whether they're historians, they're some type of researchers, and they've come up with an alternative timeline. They're saying you're looking in the wrong place in time. Jesus was not born between 7 BCE and 4 BCE. And I'm going to get to this in the edited video. And I've spent like 20 minutes on this, which is why I wanted to do an introduction first. So, okay, maybe I spent 14 minutes on it. So they're saying, well, according to the Bible, John the Baptist died before Jesus. And if you remember your Bible history, and I do put that in quotes, Salome danced before Herod, and Herod liked it. And her mother said Herod promised her anything she wanted. And her mother said, ask for the head of John the Baptist on a silver platter. Like, literally, ask for the head of John the Baptist on a silver platter, because he was going around condemning the marriage. And so Herod really didn't want to do it, because people were like, hey, he's a prophet, leave him alone. But he also made this promise to Salome. So he goes ahead and, chops off John the Baptist's head, and then presents it on a silver platter to Salome. So Salome can present it to her mother. Real weird stuff. But this is the Bible we're talking about. So anyway, according to the Bible, John the Baptist dies before Jesus. Because, of course, John the Baptist's disciples come to Jesus and say, hey, our guru, our leader has died. What are we going to do now? And so obviously Jesus is supposed to have died after John the Baptist. Well, these researchers, or whoever they are, historians, whatever, they're saying that John the Baptist died in 35 CE. Now, if you do the math, if Jesus was born in 4 BCE and he was 33 years old when he died, that would put his death at around 29 to 30 CE. And obviously that's before 35 CE. So we got a problem. If John the Baptist died in 35 CE. Now, these guys say they have proof that John the Baptist died in 35 CE. And that's the cliffhanger I'm going to leave it on. So if you want to know more about this Star of the Magi thing, you're going to have to watch my edited video. So, like I said, I have a new Teespring store. Link will be in the description as soon as this goes up. And like I said, I don't know when it's going to go up. YouTube likes to... sometimes it's a few hours, sometimes it's a whole day. Who knows? So, at any rate, so go visit my Teespring store. I also have a store on my website. Now, the Teespring store does have more items in it. But you're also more than welcome to visit my website store. Also, um, you know, if you would like to donate, you can donate via PayPal, or there should be a money sticker in the um, under the side chat. You can do a super chat and I'll read it out loud. You can make me say anything you want me to say um, with a super chat. So, at any rate, yeah, so there's the cliffhanger. You're going to have to come back for the real juicy bit. You know, have they found out that the timeline of Jesus, if he existed, which, like I said, I'm not, haven't made my mind up one way or another. Um, you know, um, was he born between 7 BCE and 4 BCE? And that's coming. I'm not quite sure when. Like I said, it's going to be a little longer than my other videos. I've already looked at it and it's going to be one of those. I'm going to try to condense it down. But obviously, I don't want to leave any of the important stuff out. So, I will see you guys later. You have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I will catch you later. Bye.